Centennial ground, Skyhawk 1122 Tango, Charlie 1, run-up area, run-up is complete, southeast with Mike.
Cessna 22 Tango, taxi up to hold short, running 10 at Charlie 1.
Taxi 10, hold short 10, Charlie 1, 22 Tango.
Warrior 39er X-ray, monitor tower.
Alright, X-ray going to tower.
Cool, so we go ahead and start our taxi up there.
3 Golf Papa, monitor tower.
Tower, 3 Golf Papa.
And then we'll wait for him to switch us over to tower.
Cessna 22 Tango, monitor tower.
Monitor tower 22 Tango.
Perfect. So now if you go ahead and hit COM 1 Mike,
have a great day.
switches everything to tower.
We're 303, correction, Cessna 821 Whiskey Whiskey, fly straight out, runway 35 right, cleared for takeoff, wind 3607.
Clear for takeoff, 35 right, 821 Whiskey Whiskey, straight.
Experimental 4 Bravo Victor, you can turn final now, runway 35 right, clear to land, wind 3606.
Clear to land, runway 35 right for 14 Bravo Victor.
Fast track 16, go ahead and enter a midfield right downwind, runway 35 right.
Midfield right downwind, 35 right, fast track 16.
So we're going to have a crosswind.
27 Juliet, continue straight out, contact tower 123.7.
Continue straight out, contact tower 123.7.
Experimental 4 Bravo Victor, traffic until 11 o'clock, half mile, 6,200, Cessna on final for the parallel runway. There'll be another aircraft following in the left base.
Look for traffic on the parallel, 14 Bravo Victor.
Cessna 1122 Tango Centennial, tower flight due eastbound to Parker Avenue, then southeast on course approved, runway 10, cleared for takeoff, wind 350 at 7.
Fly east to Parker, then southeast, clear for takeoff, 1022 Tango.
Perfect.
Alright.
So now we can go ahead,
Fast track 16,
we'll do our strobe lights and our landing light.
Runway 10 eastbound.
And we can go ahead and start rocking and rolling out there.
Fast track 16, I'll call your right base.
Call my base, fast track 16.
So let's get out here, get on center line.
Center X-ray with you at Alpha 14.
Pardon. Cessna 1 Whiskey Whiskey, east on course approved.
Any, stay 21 Whiskey Whiskey.
Alrighty. We'll get on center line, 2,000 RPM. Making sure everything's in the green, heels on the floor, and full power. Cool, cool. And then we'll just use that nose wheel to maintain center line.
Track will be in position prior to arrival.
There we go, our airspeed's alive.
Cessna 6170 Papa Centennial, tower 35 right, line up and wait. Traffic, Cessna 5 mile final, additional traffic will cross downfield.
617, line up and wait, 35 right.
And there's 55.
Experimental 4 Bravo Victor, no delay down the runway, turn right, Alpha 9er, verify you can make that travel across downfield.
Right turn Alpha 9er, no delay, that shouldn't be a problem.
Perfect. A little more right rudder as well. Perfect.
Okay.
We're 39er X-ray, cross runway 35 right at Bravo 14, or Alpha 14, runway 35
And then we'll
left.
keep that nose coming to the right here.
Crossing 35
So a little
right
bit
at
more
Alpha
to the right
14,
on the ailerons.
Whoa.
Sirius 773 off Papa Centennial Tower, cross runway 35 right at Alpha 14, runway 35 left, taxi via Bravo.
Perfect.
35 left via Bravo, cross 35 right, 773 Golf.
A little bit more to the right.
And we're 39er X-ray, just want to verify the runway, right 35 left, now taxi via Bravo.
Copy, we're going 35 left via Bravo.
Cessna 22 Tango, southeast on course approved.
Southeast on course approved.
Oh, sorry.
We're 39er X-ray,
No worries.
I'm focusing. I could
No
tell
worries.
the plane. Alright.
3.7.
So should I
So let's go ahead and fly a heading
try
of,
to get the nose down a little to get up to 74?
Yep. Just a little bit, about right there. Just kind of hold it right there.
Okay.
That looks
Turn a
pretty
little
good.
bit to the east.
Cessna 70 Papa, fly straight out, right 35 right, cleared for takeoff, wind 3503.
Yep.
I'm going to go
35 right, clear for takeoff, 617 Sierra Papa.
Fast track 16, you start your right base, you're following that Cessna, you just passed you on final 6,900.
Traffic inside, right base, fast track 16.
this. A little more.
Yeah, just a little bit more.
Fast track 82, right 35 right, clear to land, wind 340 at 5, an additional Cessna will depart prior to arrival.
Cool. Then we'll go up to 7,000.
Cap 586, no delay on your roll, runway 35 right, clear for takeoff, fly straight out.
35 right, clear for takeoff, straight out, rolling, cap 586.
Cessna 1 whiskey, frequency change approved, good day.
Whiskey.
Cessna 22 Tango, frequency change approved, good day.
Frequency change approved, 22 Tango.
I'm not listening to the radio at all.
No worries.
Fast track 16, runway 35 right, clear to land, wind 020 at 5.
35 right, clear to land, fast track 16.
I think I want to move my seat up a little bit.
Cool. My controls.
Take controls. Your controls.
My controls.
Tower 14 Bravo Victor, with you off 35 right, Alpha 9, parking area until.
Alright. Good.
All right, your controls.
Ground
My
1,
controls.
12.8.
And then if you take your checklist, you can.
70, Papa contact
So we
tower
have-
123.7. Contact tower 123.7.
So en route climb, we'll do that checklist. So
Okay.
airspeed 70 to 85, looking good.
Yep.
Throttle is obviously full, and
Yep.
then mixture set where we want it.
Okay.
And then if you want, you have a little clip right here.
Yeah.
You can just slide that checklist up in there. Perfect.
Okay. It's Parker Road, I think. Right, going down.
Yes. I believe so.
Cap 586, southeast on course approved.
On course, at cap 586.
There is a tower out here, and it displays it on here for us. But we'll just keep an eye out for it. It's that KOA antenna out here.
Okay.
We're plenty high enough now, but... Awesome, so we're at 7,500. So now we can start to level out. Yep, use that trim. Beautiful. And then, as far as the cruise RPM setting that I like to use is roughly 23 to 24. Okay? Just enough that you don't have that excess thrust wanting to make you climb. Yep.
Fast track 82, keep a good roll down the runway, turn right off at 9 or ground point 8, good day.
Keep a good roll down Alpha 9, ground point 8, FB1, fast track 82.
Beautiful.
Fast track 16, staging is good. Cessna 5163 Hotel Centennial Tower.
Awesome.
Southeast on course approved.
So go ahead
runway
and hit
10,
this
clear
transfer
for
button
takeoff,
for me, and I
wind.
already threw practice area in there for me, so now we have a practice area.
Okay.
We are going to go try to take... We're just going to keep going south until we get to Castlewood Canyon practice box. Maybe. Somebody might be there. If not, we'll sneak over to like Fairgrounds or something. Now we do have somebody 100 feet below us. He's off our right side.
Right side.
Or excuse me, our left side. My other right. So we'll just keep an eye out for him. He's still
Is that
a
him
little
way
ways
out there? Somebody
yeah.
way up.
Yep, that's him right there. Beautiful. So you can see our mixture is set a little rich. Okay, so what I would do is just kind of work it out nice and slow, and then give it a minute and let it see what it does. In theory, you want that little flag to be right below the E and the G. Maybe a little more.
Lost him now.
He's kind of shimmering right there. You see him?
Oh, over there.
Yep.
Okay, I see him now, yeah.
Cool. And so, just kind of playing around with the mixture to try to get that flag right below the E and the G, but that's pretty good.
Okay.
Right there. Beautiful.
I keep coming up.
Go ahead and give me a left turn to, let's do 110 for me, please.
Okay. Left turn 1.
Southeast practice area, Cessna 1122 Tango 7600. We're transitioning eastbound towards the Fairgrounds practice box southeast. Beautiful. Alrighty. Let's go ahead and do a climb up to, let's go 8,500.
Okay. Up to 8,500. So I go full throttle?
Yep, so we'll go full power and then we'll pitch for that 74 again. And then if you want to take your altitude knob and take this fatter inside one and turn it to the...
Oh,
yep.
too far.
Beautiful. So this Bravo shelf right here starts at 8,000, so that's why we like to be at 7,500 when we take off. We get that 500-foot difference.
Yep.
And then this one's 9,000, so that's where we can step it up a little bit. And you can see the terrain kind of starts to raise a little as well. Beautiful.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Yeah, I'm familiar with that Bravo shelf from flying in sim.
Fair enough. I like it. You're making my job easy.
Wow. We hit pockets where we just drop and then other pockets and then we shoot up.
Yep. Hopefully it doesn't get any worse than this. There are reports, so we'll see. If it starts to get too bad, we can just go ahead and head back.
It was okay coming out.
Yeah, this isn't too bad. It's when you're starting to get these big wing dips and losing altitude and stuff like that. That's when it starts to get a little uncomfortable. Southeast practice area, Cessna 1122 Tango, 8,300, climbing 8,500, transitioning through the Three Towers box towards the Fairground box, southeast.
Centennial Southeast practice area traffic, Cap 586. We are 3 north of Franktown, 8,000, climbing 8,500. We're going to be flying Elizabeth, Iowa.
Yikes.
Alrighty, so a couple things to talk about. In theory, we want to spend 80% of our time looking outside and that other 20% inside.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is, you know, we want to be primarily focused outside, but also kind of bouncing back and forth, right? So it's not like I'm going to spend, you know, 3 minutes looking outside and then 1 minute inside. It's not necessarily that. What I mean by that is I'm spending most of my time looking outside, looking around, and then bouncing inside to make sure everything looks good, playing with stuff, bouncing back outside, right? And it's just kind of a constant transition.
That's actually a problem for me because when I, you know, there really isn't anything that's going to hurt you outside when you're in a sim. So I tend to be focused down here, like am I climbing, what's my speed, all that kind of stuff, as opposed to out. So I'm probably 80-20.
Exactly. And that's most people. I even find myself doing it. It's really easy to get fixated inside, especially with this glass cockpit, right? There's so much going on. There's so much information being presented to you that it's hard just to kind of go back to the basics of looking outside. Go ahead and give me... Go ahead and give me a right 360, please. We're just going to do a nice, easy right 360. So what we're going to be looking for is about a 15-degree bank.
Okay.
We're just going to kind of consider this our clearing turn. Nice. Looking good. You can see our turn coordinator. When that pink line is right on that first little notch right there, that white notch, and it'll bounce around.
Hess Reservoir, southeast bound, 7,500, headed out towards the aerobatics box, southeast banks area.
That's going to be what we consider a standard rate turn.
Lost my turn. There's always seems like there's one too many things to focus on.
Yep.
Okay.
Cool. And you can also see based on the horizon, we're in that nice kind of 15-degree-ish bank turn, right? Based on what's going on with the horizon.
Okay. And these dividers are 20, 10 each, I mean?
Yep, so it's going to be...
So I want to be halfway between the first and the second.
Exactly,
line.
yep. So it's going to be 10, 20, 30, and then this one over here is actually 45. And then 60.
Okay.
Centennial southeast, Skyhawk 5163 Hotel, 7,500 feet. We're going to be over 3 towers coming from the west.
Cool, so go ahead and level out here actually for me real quick.
Okay.
That way that'll get us back in that practice box we're looking for. Southeast practice area, Skyhawk 1122 Tango, 8,500 feet, fairgrounds practice box, maneuvering southeast. Alrighty, and so if you look outside, in theory we went like roughly 3 fingers or so. I mean, it's always going to change, right? But that's kind of just a ballpark. You don't have to sit here with 3 fingers, but that's kind of what we're looking for, right? It's just kind of that good chunk of horizon that we're looking for, and that's going to basically be level flight.
Okay.
Now, obviously, if we descend, it's going to get more. If we climb, it's going to go away, right? So that's just kind of a good reference. If we were to lose everything, we can use that. The other thing we can use is our wing, right? So you can see right now, we're nose up just a touch. Not bad, but maybe just a touch.
Yep.
If we're descending, obviously, our wing's going to be pointed down, right? And then if we're in a bank, you know, we're not going to have that horizon over on this side, and we're going to have more on your side, right? So that's where we kind of just use that outside to help us out.
Okay.
Sweet, looking good. You really have the concept down as far as basic level flight and everything. I am going to show you, seems like you understand trim as well, which is really nice. We do, that's a bird, but we do have a guy up above us.
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
He's 2,000 feet above us, but we'll just kind of keep an eye out for him. Cool, cool. So, what, are you pretty familiar with kind of what the rudders do and how to utilize them and everything? Okay, cool.
I mean, in theory, I am. Not feeling what, not actually feeling it, but in theory I am.
One thing that I kind of like to demonstrate, we're going to do that here next, once we kind of get away from these other people around us.
Oh, that's a jet.
Is I'm just going to demonstrate to you, and then I'm going to have you play around with it, how you can just use, you really don't need the yoke. Obviously the yoke is a major controlling factor, right? But too many people try to use the yoke and they forget about the rudder and trim and throttle and the whole 9 yards, right?
Yeah.
So I just kind of want to demonstrate to you how, like, what the throttle's doing.
Centennial southeast.
and how to utilize it, how to utilize that trim, how to utilize that rudder, right?
Over 3 towers, Centennial southeast.
Southeast practice area, Cessna 112 Tango 8500, fairgrounds practice box maneuvering, southeast. Cool. So my controls real quick.
Okay, your controls.
Cool. So I'm not even going to use the yoke at all, and we're going to do a couple maneuvers here.
Okay.
So if I want to climb, full power, you can see the plane just naturally wants to kind of start to climb. Now obviously if the trim isn't set right, it's not going to, all it's going to do is pick up airspeed or descend, right? But you can see it wants to climb because we have that excess thrust. Now, if I pull some power out, what it's going to want to do is you can see the nose now wants to drop, right? Because we have a lack of excess power.
Yep.
Right? So if I add that power back in theory, we should get back to a climb. Cool. Without building too much airspeed up. Now, if I want to do, so let me just kind of get back to a cruise setting. Now I can use that trim to help me out too, right? So if I want to nose up, obviously I can use some nose up trim, and that'll help me out there. And you can play around with it a little bit, or I can use that nose down to help get us back to where we want to be. Now, if I want to do a turn, I can also use, the rudder to get that nose coming back down. But I can just push on that rudder, and so you can see how that rudder wants to yaw that nose to the right or left, right? So now I can use all three of these together to kind of play around with maintaining level flight. And it's not easy, but you can kind of play around with all of them to just kind of get a feel. So like, right now, for what my power setting is, I can use my trim to help me out, and I can use that rudder to help me in this turn. But obviously if I add more power, right, it's going to want to climb, right? So I'm going to have to use a little bit more nose down trim and just kind of play around with it. And then if I back that power out, obviously we'll descend, right? So that's kind of just a cool, you know, it teaches you to be able to rely on using all these different factors, right? And then if I bring the yoke into it, now the yoke is obviously going to be my factor that gets me into that turn, but I'm going to want to use that rudder too, so I'm not in a skidding or slipping motion, right? And you can see it kind of locks it in really nice. And then I can also play with that trim, and I can adjust that power too. So that way I'm not fighting it, right? But you know, let's say in the event that your yoke got stuck, in theory you could land or fly to an area where you can, just by using, you know, your throttle, your rudder, your trim, and you know, it's probably not going to be the greatest landing in the world, but you can, you know, you have options, right? Descend back down so we don't get too high. But it kind of just breaks everything down a little bit and just kind of shows you what's going on with each piece of equipment. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Cool. So your controls, I'll let you get back down to a comfortable altitude and airspeed and whatnot, and then I'll let you kind of play around with it as well. Okay. Southeast practice area, Cessna 112 Tango, 8,500 feet, fairgrounds practice box maneuvering, southeast.
Centennial southeast, sky, final 6 from 8,500 feet, maneuvering over 3 towers, Centennial southeast.
Trying to lose my death grip.
Yeah. And that's where...
Because the whole first part of the flight I was like...
Yeah. No, definitely. And in theory, once you get it kind of trimmed out and everything, you can just kind of really lightly touch the controls and just kind of use those rudders to help you out.
I could see the difference between what I'm doing and when you took the controls. You're just like, well, in fact, you were not even touching, so...
And again, that just takes practice and just getting comfortable with what the plane's going to do and feeling it out, right?
Yeah, rudder is something, like I said, in theory, I understand, but because it isn't, strictly speaking, required to make turns, definitely very lazy about it.
And that happens, right? Like, it's just something that happens. Like, I'm even lazy with the rudder. Just because it's a secondary control surface, right? It's
Yep.
like trim. Trim's also a secondary control surface. And then the throttle isn't necessarily a control, but it in a way kind of is, right? Because it adjusts your pitch and
Yep.
whatnot. Now, we could be max power right now and use the trim to help us out so that, it's kind of trim nose down so we're not climbing or descending or anything like that, even though we have all this excess thrust. And what that does is it gives us more airspeed. But
So this indicator, this is the one called the slip indicator, but
it's like it's your ball or
Your
your
ball,
brick, right?
yeah,
So it's
yeah,
like
yeah.
your inclinometer, I think is what they call it.
so in theory I want it to be the same as the arrow.
Exactly, yep. So you want it to be centered right under that arrow.
And so if it goes too far to the right, I want more rudder.
Yep, you want either more right rudder or less left rudder,
Okay.
depending on what you got going on in that situation.
All right. So I want to kind of chase it with the rudder pedals. basically.
Exactly, yep.
Okay.
So it's that same concept of like stepping on the ball, right? This is going to be stepping on the brick.
Okay.
So if it goes to the right, you do right rudder until it's centered up. Now if it goes too far, just let off on that right rudder.
Okay.
It just kind of depends on what you got going on.
So when I start a turn, do I want to start with rudder or do I want to start with aileron?
Both at the same time.
Both at the same. All right.
Yep.
So I start a right turn. I do.
There you go. See how it's nice and
Oh.
coordinated?
Yeah, I mean, I could. Again, when you took the controls and you made a turn, it was just perfect.
Yep.
Okay.
And again, that just kind of comes with practice, like how much pressure, I have that muscle memory built in. But,
Yeah.
you're just kind of trying to play around and feel both of them out a little bit.
I think as I drive my car, I was thinking that because I have a manual transmission car
Okay.
and teaching my kids how to drive manual transmission. I mean, I've driven one for so long, I don't even think about it.
Exactly,
My
yep.
brain just hears the engine and I just automatically the clutch, and if I'm on a hill, it's just the feel. It's all just muscle memory for me. When my kids try to do it, they have a hard time with it. So
Exactly.
over time, okay.
And that's where, as you get that muscle memory too, the flying of the aircraft is going to be second nature, right?
Yeah.
And then everything else that's going on, like radios and everything else, that's what you're going to be more focused on at the time. Looking good though.
Okay.
Cool. Let's go ahead and let's get into some slow flight. Play around with that.
Okay.
So basically, what we're going to be demonstrating with slow flight, and just kind of an intro to getting into maneuvers.
34, 9,000, climbing up to 9,500 in chop field box.
So we're going to basically be sorry, I was looking at other stuff. Anyway, yeah, so basically what we're going to be talking about with slow flight is what the plane is going to feel like when we get it close to a stalled situation. Like, we're going to be slower, right? We're going to have a lot higher angle of attack. There's going to be less airflow over the control surfaces.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a lot more sluggish when you're trying to get it to do what you want it to do. And it's just going to kind of take a little bit more work to get the plane to do what you want it to do. Now, the other thing that it's going to teach us how to do is get into that region reverse command. So right now, maintaining altitude, we're using pitch.
Yep.
Right? So if we get a little too high, we nose down, vice versa. And then to control our airspeed, we're using that throttle. Well, when we get in that region of reverse command, it's going to be we're pitching, or we're using that pitch for a specific airspeed, kind of like when we took off, or exactly like when we took off, and then using that power to adjust our altitude. So,
7,500 en route Kiowa, Franktown, Centennial.
That's kind of the purpose of slow flight, is understanding how we use that region of reverse command, because that's going to be how, or what we're going to do when we come into land and take off in theory, and then also kind of what the aircraft is going to feel like when you get close to that stall position. The other thing that we're going to talk about is getting, like, just doing a basic maneuver, right? Like, how do we want to get set up to do any of these maneuvers we're going to do? Because in theory, slow flight's a maneuver. And so with that, it's going to be, we're going to want to do a clearing turn, we're going to want to bug our heading, we're going to want to find a visual outside reference if we can that coincides with that heading. And then we're kind of going to do a flow in the cockpit just to make sure we are, you know, everything's set up appropriately to do this maneuver, right? Cool. So, my controls, I'm just going to kind of demonstrate the first one, and then I'll have you do it.
Okay.
So basically, I'm just going to flip us back around, and we'll call this our clearing turn. So it's a nice, gradual, easy turn, nice standard rate turn, working our way around, just kind of scanning for traffic. And I'm just going to do a 180 to get us back, or roughly a 180 just to get us back into this practice box. These guys are kind of encroaching on our practice box, but that's okay. We'll just keep an eye out for them. But just kind of a nice, easy turn, spending most of the time outside, making sure nobody's around. And then I'm just going to kind of get lined up with these roads right here. Okay. Wings level, make sure I didn't lose too much altitude or anything like that. Just kind of getting set up in this cruise configuration that I like. Kind of getting everything on a level playing field, bugging my heading inside, and then outside I'm going to use that road kind of way out there. That's easy to see. Okay. Get everything trimmed how I want it. So now I've done our clearing turn, we've bugged our heading, we have our visual outside reference that we're kind of using, and then we're going to do our pre-maneuver cockpit check. So there should be, there's nothing on your checklist, but that's okay. What I typically like to do, everything's in the cruise configuration. I just want to make sure my fuel selector's on both, fuel shut-off is in, mixture set where I want it, which it looks pretty good, throttle set where I want it, which my RPMs look good. All my lights are on and my magnetos are on. Everything just looks appropriate to how it should look, right? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to begin the maneuver. So I'm going to pull my power back to about 1800 RPM. It's nice and easy. And then I'm going to use my pitch to maintain my altitude. And by doing that, what's going to happen is my airspeed's going to start to bleed off. So you can see it's starting to bleed off. And I'm going to add some back pressure in there and some trim to help me out. Below 110, I can put my first notch of flaps in, and then once I'm in the white arc, so once I'm below 85, I can go full flaps. So I'm just going to lock full flaps in there. And then my airspeed that I'm going to be looking for is about 55 to 65 knots. There's a damn thing. Hold on one second. So we're just going to get our airspeed back.
Engaging autopilot.
So I got to turn this off real quick. So these airplanes, these newer airplanes have a
Centennial southeast.
It automatically engages the autopilot?
yeah, so if you get too slow or you bank too much, it automatically engages the autopilot.
Cessna 86 Kilo will be maneuvering just south of Franktown.
Southwest, correction, southeast practice area, Skyhawk 112 to Tango 8,500 maneuvering in the fairgrounds practice box, southeast. So if you go over to the auxiliary checklist, go down to system setup, setup 2, it's going to be this stability and protection.
Oh.
Then we want to turn that off. And then that way it won't take over on me. Cool, we should still be good. So again, I'm just going to pull my power out. You know, again, in theory, doing the clearing turns, whole 9 yards, but we're good to go there. So I'm just going to pull my power out. Below 110 and below 85, full flaps, maintaining my altitude. And then again, that airspeed that I'm looking for is going to be between 55 and 60 knots.
You can really feel it slow down when the flaps come down.
Yep.
It's like whoosh.
Cool. Now, I don't even have to touch my throttle, but I want to get my airspeed, right? So, in theory, I need to pitch down because I'm getting slow, right? So I can pitch down and get my airspeed back. So you can see I'm losing altitude, though. but that's okay. I have my specific airspeed. So, if I want to get my altitude back, I'm just going to go full power. And basically what happens is if I were to stay at this exact pitch attitude, my airspeed's just going to come right back, right? It's going to get too high. So what I have to do in turn is nose up a little bit, using that trim to get that specific airspeed I'm looking for back. And in turn, our nose goes up, we're climbing again, right? I'm going to do a little turn to the left. These are nice, super easy gradual turns. Because anytime we turn, we increase our load factor. Because we're losing our vertical component of lift, transitioning it into more of a horizontal, right? So we have to add a little bit more back pressure in theory. And so we don't, and we're already so close to a stall, right? We don't want to add too much load factor because then we'll be closer to a stall. So just a nice easy turn. I'm just going to switch this around to like a heading of 130. Cool, and then once I get back up to 8,000 feet, then I'm just going to kind of play with it a little bit. I'm getting a little fast, or excuse me, I'm getting a little slow, so I'm just going to nose down. Keeping that right rudder in there, help keep me coordinated. And just really kind of having to play with everything. And the controls are going to be really heavy and really sluggish. And that's where that trim will come into play and help you out. Cool, so there's 8,500 feet. So I'm just going to work that power out. Not a lot, just a little bit, to hopefully still be able to maintain my altitude and that airspeed I want. And again, I'm using that pitch for my airspeed, and then my altitude I'm just controlling with my throttle. So I'll go ahead and go wings level here. And that's slow flight. So I'm going to go ahead and recover, and then I'm going to have you get into it. Okay? And recovery is pretty simple. It's just, instead of focusing so much on my airspeed now, I'm going to be focusing more on my altitude. So I'm going to transition from that, using my pitch for my airspeed, I'm going to transition it back to using my pitch for my altitude. Still turning. Cool. So I'm just going to go full power. And then instead of climbing, I'm just going to start to kind of ease that nose down a little bit to maintain that altitude. And you can see my airspeed starting to come up. Or it should. Right about 60, we can work that first notch of flaps out. And you can see, there we go, my airspeed's starting to come back more and more. Then at about 65, 70,
Southeast,
bring my next notch of flaps up.
Mike Tango, we're about 2 miles north of the refinery. Looking to transition, take one of the boxes, probably take Elizabeth. Southeast.
Cool, cool. And then my last notch of flaps. And then I put a whole bunch of nose up trim in there, so I'm going to need nose down trim. And then I'll keep my throttle in until I get back to a good airspeed, right? So like 80 or so knots, and then I can work that back out and run through my cruise checklist. Does that make sense?
Yes.
In a way.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I know it's kind of
It was a
lot
lot
of
to take in at one time, but
for sure.
While you were saying it, it made sense, yeah.
Cool. So I'm going to have you take over, so your controls.
Okay, my controls.
Your controls. Alrighty, so now I'm going to have you do it, and I'm just going to kind of walk you through it.
Okay.
We'll just stay on this heading since there's nobody out in front of us. And we'll say we've done our clearing turn, and we'll say, let's go ahead and bug our heading. So if you just go ahead and click that in. Perfect.
Okay.
Alrighty, so we'll do our pre-maneuver cockpit check, which everything looks good. So fuel selector both, fuel shut-off is in, mixture set, throttle set where we want it, all our lights are on, everything's looking good. Awesome. Okay, so now go ahead and pull your power back to about 1800 RPM or so. Looking good, and then we're just going to try to use that pitch to maintain our altitude. And by doing so, it's going to bleed our airspeed off. Alrighty, so we're within that white arc, so go ahead and just go full flaps for me. There you go, perfect. Okay. And it's going to want a balloon on you. Yep, there we go.
Okay.
And now just focus on getting that airspeed back. So a little, no, that looks actually pretty good. Maybe a little nose down, there we go. Looking good, yep. Maybe a little bit more nose down. Oop. Yep. There we go. You can use that trim to help you out too. Okay. Alrighty. And then bump your throttle up to about 2,000 RPM. And that should help you kind of maintain altitude. That's a good, yep. Awesome. And you can see when you pitch up, so now our airspeed's going down, so a little bit more nose down, perfect.
Yep. Okay.
Keeping that right rudder in there. And you can feel everything's really sluggish, really heavy, right? It's taking a lot of input to get it to do what you want it to do.
Southeast Bacteria Scout 172 Mike Tango is over Franktown, transitioning east along 86 to Elizabeth. We're currently at 78, climbing to 85 southeast.
Yeah, in order to keep it at 55, I have to have the nose down.
Exactly. So if that's the case, add that power back in there, and that'll help you get back up to that altitude that you're looking for.
Nose up. Yeah, that's something that's I have to remember is that the attitude and airspeed are opposites.
Yep.
I want to chase the speed when I want to, like I chase the altitude, but speed works opposite way, so I have to
Exactly.
think
Yep.
nose up, speed down. If I want to increase speed, I gotta point the nose down.
Exactly.
Okay.
Cool, cool. So I would actually just go full power. That'll help you get back.
Okay.
And that's where slow flight in theory is, it's not as reactive in some ways, and it's more reactive in others. So like you really got to be reactive with that throttle and kind of play with that throttle to keep that airspeed, or to keep that altitude where you want it.
So do I want to keep it at 55 still, or do I want to?
60 is actually a really
60?
good
Okay.
mark.
All
So
right.
you have per the like the demonstration purposes when you do this for your check ride,
Yep.
you have plus or minus 10 on the airspeed.
Hotel,
Okay.
7,500 over the Pinery, exiting to Centennial, last call, Centennial southeast.
Beautiful, looking good.
Okay.
And there's going to be days when you're trying to climb in slow flight and it doesn't want to climb. And that's, you know, at that point just mentioning to, you know, the examiner or whoever, like, hey, I have full power in, I'm using my pitch to maintain that airspeed that I'm looking for, but since we have such a high density altitude, it's just not wanting to climb on me.
Yeah.
Awesome. Cool, give me a left turn to a heading of, let's do like 330.
Okay.
And just do a nice, easy, gradual turn when you do it.
30. Okay.
So like no more than 10 degrees. Beautiful, looking great.
So if I'm making a left turn and I see the line coming to the right, I should apply right rudder?
Yep.
Or because I'm turning left, should I just...
Nope, still right rudder.
Still,
yep.
Okay. Alright, so like now I should be giving...
There we go.
There, and then...
Or letting off on the left rudder, depending on what you have it. Yep.
Okay.
And that's going to be where those left turning tendencies come into play, because the aircraft, based on forward turning tendencies, always wants to go to the left no matter what anyway, especially when you're at these weird angles of attack.
Yeah.
So these high angles of attack and you're slow. So like on climb out or slow flight or something like that. Cool, go ahead and go wings level here, and go ahead and recover for me.
Chatfield box.
Oh, recover, so...
Yep, so full power, and then we'll just try to maintain 8,300.
Okay.
And then right about 60 knots, go ahead and work that first notch of flaps out for me. Oh, there we go. And then once we get to about 70, we can work the next one out. there.
Oh, are there three? Are there three?
Yep.
Oh!
Yep, so 30 degrees, 20, 10, and then up.
Ah, gotcha, okay.
Yep.
I was going one too many.
And then now you can go all the way out.
Okay.
Perfect. And you can feel we lose
Wow.
all that lift, right?
Yeah.
That's why we don't want to just completely dump them. We want to incrementally work those out.
Yeah.
Perfect, and we can see we're right at 8,300, and now we have that airspeed back, and we're back to that normal controlling of the aircraft again.
Okay.
Sound good?
Yep.
Alrighty. Go ahead and hit direct for me. And enter. Perfect, and we're going to go ahead and follow that line. And we can start our descent down to 7,500 again.
Okay. So I want to pull out power.
Yep.
Descent.
About 1,800 RPM or so is pretty good. 2,000, 1,800, somewhere in there. And that'll help give you a nice gradual 500 foot per minute descent.
Alright. Gotta get it more. Less, I should say, less. This.
There you go.
More trim, I think. It's better.
Southeast practice area, Cessna 1122 Tango, 7,500 transitioning through the fairgrounds practice box, back west towards Centennial, southeast.
So should I stop at 7,500?
Yep.
Okay.
And then go ahead and adjust your altitude bug to show 7,500 because that'll help you out. Perfect.
Okay, and then throttle back up.
Yep. Beautiful.
Southeast Skyhawk 172 Mike Tango in Elizabeth Box at 7,500 feet, 8,000 feet, and maneuvering southeast.
Alrighty, so we're 20 miles out from Centennial. So let's go ahead and get the weather back into Centennial, make sure anything didn't change.
Okay.
So now, this is where we can utilize that just listening to it that function. So what we can do is go ahead and click this guy in for me, and then hit the transfer button, and that'll kick our weather back over to active. And then we go ahead and press COM2. So that way we can still listen to the practice area in case anybody says something, and also the ATIS.
753 Zulu, wind 340 at 8, ceiling visibility better than 5,005, temperature 14, dew point 0, altimeter 2980. Remarks, alpha cumulus standing lenticular distant to the southwest to west. Visual approach in use. Landing and departing runway 35 right, 35 left, 1028 open and available. Notice airmen, multiple construction cranes are descending out Centennial Airport. Hazardous weather information for Colorado is available from flight service. Use caution for simultaneous operations to closely separated parallel runways. Before departures, advise ground control direction of flight. All departures, advise ground control if you require run-up and when it's complete. Remain on ground control frequency until advised. Advise on initial contact, you have information, November.
Yeah, we have information November now.
Okay. Centennial Airport information, November 1753 Zulu, wind 340 at 8, ceiling
Cool.
visibility.
So you're going to go ahead and press that COM2 button again for me so we don't have to listen to that. Awesome. And then we know we're going to be talking to ground at some point, so I would switch that back into the active. Perfect. And that way it's there, so all we have to do is we don't have to hit transfer and COM2. It's just already there. All we have to do is hit COM2. Just makes life a little bit easier for everybody, right? We have some time to kill. Might as well get set up, right? There's always something to do. There are some towers down here as well. So you can see on here they're showing up as yellow. So we can kind of sneak out to the north a little bit, just so that way we're not going right over the top of them. And then at roughly 10 miles, that's a good distance to give them a call. 10 to 12 miles, somewhere in there. Today I'm going to give them a call at 12 miles, just so that way, or I can have you do it if you would like. But we can give them a call requesting runway 28. And the reason why I'm going to give them a call at 12 miles is just so that they can sequence this in maybe a little bit easier, because it does look like there's a couple people
pretty
that might
busy
be
when
coming
we were
in.
leaving.
Yeah, and that's just how Centennial is.
Yep.
They get pretty busy.
Something I definitely need to work on. I can feel is I'm used to judging. I mean, where I am as far as climbing or descending by the feet per minute.
Okay.
But trying to chase that, I think, is why more swings, and I think I have to feel what's happening with the planes rather than trying to look at what's going on with the instruments.
Yep. And so feet per minute, in theory, it's a trend. So it senses that you're descending, so it shows a descent. But then, you know, it might just be you're losing a little bit of altitude due to some turbulence, and then you bounce back up, right? So it's having a hard time adjusting for what is 100% happening at the moment, right? So there's that lag in the instrument.
I think it's following. So
Yep.
I'm always chasing something that's following, and that's why there's more oscillation there as opposed to what I can feel the plane actually doing right
Yep.
now.
And that's where looking outside too will help. So like we have our altitude we kind of have that horizon view that we like.
Yep.
And then we can see inside that we're at 7,500. Perfect. We can just kind of keep that where we want it.
Yeah.
Now if you look over on the side, it's kind of going away now, but there's also this pink line right here.
Yeah.
That's the same thing. It's also a trend.
Yep. Yeah, I saw that with the airspeed too, as we were as you put in full throttle and the little pink.
Yep.
Goes up a little
exactly.
bit, not a lot.
Yeah, the Cessna's
it
not
doesn't.
quickest plane in the world,
Right,
right? So
right.
you're not going to have...
Right.
Cool. So if you go ahead and switch your comm button back up to the top for me, and then go ahead and transfer that over to tower. Beautiful.
Medevac of 1,
So it's going to be kind of the same concept.
Oh, I see. For 12.7.
Yep. So Centennial Tower, Cessna 1122 Tango is about 12 miles to the southeast. Full stop with November. And then they'll tell you however they want you to enter. And if they give us 28, we'll go ahead and accept that.
They appear to be headed east, southeast bound.
Thank you.
And I'm sorry, you said I was clear for my turn?
Medevac 1 on course approved.
On course approved, Medevac 1, thanks.
Here's for Delta Juliet traffic, 11 o'clock, mile and a half, 6,500 left base for the parallel Cessna.
I'll look on for Delta Juliet.
Centennial Tower, Cessna 1122 Tango is 12 miles to the southeast, full stop with November.
Diamond 505 Juliet Foxtrot, Centennial Tower, make straight in runway 28.
Watch out for this guy.
Cessna 1122 Tango, Centennial Tower, fly due northbound, you're following Diamond Star traffic, they just started final for runway 28, about a mile and a half northwest of your position, 7,600.
We'll fly due northbound and follow that traffic, 1122 Tango.
Oh, sorry.
No worries.
I was watching the guy over
So
here.
we're going to go ahead and follow him.
Okay.
So let's go ahead and fly straight north.
Medevac 1, frequency change approved, see ya.
Change approved, thanks for the help, Medevac 1.
Do you see him? Because I don't.
Say 6 kilo, turn right there, into
Should
the
be right at our 12 o'clock, same altitude.
Right turn,
Yeah.
start course, good day.
And they're going to look a little lower than you would imagine. So they're going to be kind of hiding down on the horizon a little bit.
Oh.
Diamond 5 Juliet Foxtrot, your number 1, runway 28, clear to land, wind 3606.
Land on 28, you're,
Cessna 22 Tango, you're following the Diamond Star, they just turned final, they're now at tour about 10 o'clock in a mile and a half. Should be good space in, runway 28, clear to land number 2, wind
And hazy
3608.
over towards the
Oh,
foothills.
we're still looking for that traffic. We'll follow them though. Runway 28, clear to land, 22 Tango.
Did they say clear to land?
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm surprised.
Which runway are we on?
Runway 28, so opposite of the one we took off.
Oh, okay. What's the wind right now?
340 at 8.
All right. So we're gonna have a crosswind.
Yep. So let's go ahead and turn inbound now. To a heading of roughly 28. And you can see the runway, it's way out here. You'll see it as we get closer, but or it'll make more sense as we get closer.
Ground 4 Delta Juliet.
And I still don't have that traffic inside, but spacing looks good, so.
I see the runway.
Okay, perfect, yep, so that's gonna be runway 28, that's where we're
So the
at.
wind is gonna be coming from this direction.
Correct.
So we're gonna be getting pushed over there.
Yep.
Okay.
So, this is going to be very similar to slow flight in the fact that we want to try to keep, so as we get closer to the runway, we're going to be looking for roughly 75-ish knots. As we get even closer, we're going to slow it down, look for 70 knots, and then on short final, we're going to want to be 65. We're going to use that pitch to control it, and if we're starting to get slow on final, nose down, and then add that power in, and that'll help keep us where we want to be.
Okay. Should I be maintaining altitude?
Yep.
Okay.
Actually, we can start our descent down to, let's go down to 7,000.
Ooh, that's the wrong way. Pull it out. I'm sorry, down to what?
We'll
7,000?
go- Actually, for now, let's stay at like 7,200 until we
Okay.
get a little closer, just so we're not buzzing these houses. And then traffic pattern altitude is going to be 6,900 here.
Delta 2720 Papa Centennial.
So like once you get into the airspace, we can kind of start that descent down. But at that point, we should in theory be descending towards the runway anyway.
Cliff take off 35 right Alpha 14, we're going to fly straight out 2720 Papa.
I can already see we're going that way.
Yep. And so I'll help you out with this landing since it will be a crosswind landing.
Yes,
Basically,
please.
when we get down to flare, it's going to be right aileron into the wind, so that wing's going to drop a little bit, and then it's going to be left rudder to pull our nose around. And we're
Okay.
going to, in theory, touch down with our right tire first,
Yep.
and then just kind of roll it on.
So should I crab as we come in?
Yeah, we crab as we come in, and then once we get closer to that runway and closer to the flare, that's when we're going to execute that zero side slip.
Okay. Let me know when I should start descending.
Looking pretty good so far. We'll keep our speed up just a little bit. Here in a minute, we're going to start to slow down though. So you see this kind of bridge right here? This road with these bridges, that's when we're going to start to pull that power out. So what you're going to do is you're going to pull the power to 18.
46 Delta, thanks for your patience today. Fly straight out, runway 35 right.
And we're going to go ahead and put our first notch of flaps in because we're below 110
35 right straight out departure 6346 Delta.
You can see there's lights on the left side of the runway.
Yes.
So we're looking for one white and one red.
Yep.
So right now we have two white. So we're a
So
little
we're too
high,
high,
but
yeah.
that's okay.
3839 Centennial Tower, make sure you're runway 35 right, runway 35 right, clear to land.
Maybe pull some power a little bit since we are high, and we're looking for that airspeed of roughly 75 knots right now.
Okay.
55 Juliet Foxtrot, into the ramp with me, have a great day.
Yeah, ramp with you, thanks for your help today, 525.
Cessna 2 Sierra Papa, join the right down and overfly runway 1028 southbound. I'll call your turn to the southeast for traffic arriving runway 28.
Okay, we'll join the right downwind over 1028, he'll call the turn southeast, 2720 Papa.
Centennial Tower together on Bravo 5, X-ray Delta, Pioneer inbound full stop November.
The count on 555 X-ray Delta,
Cool.
Centennial Tower,
Let's go ahead and throw our next notch of flaps in and slow down to 70
Partner Road
knots.
northbound left base 285 X-ray Delta.
Perfect. Looking pretty good. We're a little high, but that's okay. If you keep your throttle where it's at right now, and we nose down a little bit, we can
Yep.
see we'll get back down on glide slope. A little more nose
Delta,
down.
west departure approved.
There
Westbound
we
departure
go.
approved, 6346 Delta, thank you.
Alright, let's go ahead and throw our last notch of flaps in. Then we're going to want to be right at 65.
So I said pitch down.
So a little more nose down, a little bit more power. There you go. Looking pretty good. There we go.
Cessna 2 Sierra Papa.
Goes down.
Once you're over runway 1028
And you can see we're right on that glide slope. Just kind of level it out right here. We're just going to kind of ride it out here. Maybe a little bit more power.
Centennial Tower, fast track.
There you go.
8 miles.
A little more power. There we go.
Information
That's
November,
okay.
looking to do some touch.
Alright, keep that nose coming down.
Columbia 916 Juliet Golf
All right.
Mike Centennial.
Power all the way to idle.
916 Golf Mike Centennial Tower. Right,
Let that nose settle down in there.
Traffic Challenger 6 mile final.
A little more right aileron, little left rudder, a little less back pressure.
Fast track 34 Centennial
There we go.
Tower. Contact Tower 123.7.
And then keep a little bit of right aileron in there.
Okay.
Just a little bit.
Turn right off at 9
And then my controls real
You
quick.
got the controls?
And I'm just gonna, this is what's called aerodynamic braking. So I'm at a little bit of back pressure and makes my brakes more effective. So we
Cessna
can make
22
sure.
Tango. Any right, turn into the ramp with me. Have a great day.
Alright, Charlie 3 into the ramp with you. Have a good day, 22 Tango.
Centennial Tower, Cessna 172,
Beautiful.
Mike Tango, 11 miles to the southeast, about for touch and goes with November.
Alright, so then we're just going to go ahead and stop here real quick. I'm going to have you do your after landing checklist real fast for me. Okay.
Tower, Flixton 570, clear the lane.
Wing flaps up.
Perfect.
Mixture set. Lights as needed. Turn off. Let's see. Turn to taxi. Do we turn off strobe?
Yep.
Columbia
And we
6
can leave
Golf
our
Mike,
nav on.
fly runway heading
Okay.
right 35 right, clear for takeoff.
Cool.
Wind 010.
Alrighty.